Welcome to the UCD Open Day and welcome to this talk, which is about studying law at UCD. My name is Dr. Cliona Kelly and I am the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Studies in the Law School. This is a live session, so if you've got any questions, you can type them into the Q&A box, so the chat box there, probably Q&A box, and we will either our marketing manager, Una Kelly, will deal with them as they arise, or else we will deal with them at the end. It sort of depends on what kinds of things you're asking. Okay, so I am recording and broadcasting live from the back office. So you might hear my dog bark now and again, but hopefully she'll be quiet for the duration. Okay, so in today's session, we're just going to chat a little bit about what it's like to study law in UCD and just give you an overview of what you'll be, the kinds of things you'll be studying, what the program looks like, and what you would hope to achieve if you came to UCD to study law. In law, we have a variety of degree programs that are run by the law school. So you can simply study law on its own, or you can study law with a variety of other subjects. So you can study law with Chinese, law with economics, law with history, law with Irish, law with philosophy, law with politics, law with social justice, or law with French law. So there's lots of different options available to you there. The other final option is business and law. So business and law is a separate degree program. So if you apply for any of the, for simply law on its own, or for law with something, so law with economics, law with Chinese, and so on, the code that you're applying to under the CAO is the BCL, Bachelor of Civil Law, CAO DN 600. If you are applying for business and law, that's actually got its own separate code. It's like a separate program, and its code is DN 610. And if you're particularly interested in business and law, there is a talk later on that I'm giving as well, I think it's at 12:30, on business and law. Okay, so you can, if you're particularly interested in that, I'll be going into more detail on the business and law program at the later talk. What is it that you actually study when you study law? So when you come along to the law school, what is it that you end up doing? So basically the way it works is, you know, when you're in your law degree, when you're in first year, 2/3 of your subjects of your degrees will be law subjects. And if you're taking a law with subject, then 1/3 of your modules will be from that subject. Okay, there's actually a slide, I'll pop this one here. This is a good example of it. If you were doing law with Irish, for example, what you'd be doing in first year would be 4 law subjects, and that'd be 2/3 of your modules, and then 2 Irish modules. On the other hand, if you were doing law just on its own, you would be doing 6 law subjects. Okay, so you can see from this, you do 6 modules every trimester. So that's like every term, you do 6 modules. If you're doing law, essentially you'd be able to do 6 law modules. But if you're doing law with Irish, law with Chinese, you know, any of the law withs, then you do it in 2/3 law, 1/3 with subject. You also have the option of taking electives in other subjects. So up to 2 modules per year can come from other areas of in the university. So this isn't just law modules. If you, like, let's say, for example, you're thinking, oh, actually, I wouldn't mind doing German, for example, or, you know, Spanish. And you see that, you know, in another college, they have lectures in German and Spanish. Like, you can take electives in those modules in other schools. You're not restricted to the law modules. Now, if you are interested in doing business and law, that is slightly different. In business and law, you do an equal divide of business subjects and law subjects in years 1, 2, and 3. And then you can specialize in final year. So that's why, like, business and law, it's slightly different. You're doing equal numbers of business subjects and law subjects, and you don't actually get to study any electives in business and law. So like I said, if you're interested in business and law, come along to the talk at 12:30, and I'll explain more there about how business and law works. So if you were doing law, in the first trimester of first year, when you arrive into UCD Law School, If you're just doing what we call pure law, so law, not law with something, but just law on its own, this is what you would be studying. So you'd be taking legal and professional skills. That is actually a module that I teach, and it is an introductory course to law. And it's even an introductory course to university. So we help you manage the transition from school to university. And we explain to you things like how to use the library, how to do legal research, how to find cases, how to find and read legislation. And we just sort of step you through, the basics that you need for your degree. And we also have a link to the careers network there. So we have people from the careers network who come in and talk to you about things like presentation skills, how to enhance your CV and so on, and talk to you about careers options. You will also study constitutional law. So in the first trimester, that's constitutional frameworks. That's where you learn about the makeup of our state. So what is it that the government does? What's the difference between the government and the Oireachtas? What is the role of the president? How do the government and the Oireachtas and the courts, like how do they all operate together? What's the relationship between them? You will also study tort, and in particular, you study an area of tort called negligence. So you might have heard of negligence. That's if you're in a car crash and you suffer an injury, the question is who's liable for that injury. And that's actually a very complex and academic area of law. Okay, it might sound like it's quite commercial, but actually there's a lot of law, a very interesting law on that area. And that's one thing you study in the first year. You study contract law, which is where you learn about transactions, and that can range from simply buying a cup of coffee in the shop to commercial transactions that are worth millions and billions of euro, and you get an introduction to that in first year as well. You also do civil procedure and comparative study of law, where you look at other legal jurisdictions, and you learn, well, what's the difference between, say, the Irish jurisdiction and our legal system and, say, other jurisdictions like France and Germany and so on. So that's a comparative study of law. If you were to do a law with, so let's say, for example, I just did a rant with law with Irish, it looks quite similar. You're still doing legal and professional skills, constitutional frameworks, tort and contract law. But instead of doing civil procedure and comparative law, you would take 2 Irish modules. Okay, and similarly, if you were doing law with Chinese, that would be 2 Chinese modules. So, that's essentially where the widths come in. You're mostly doing law, but you're doing what we call a minor in your other subject. So you're doing a smaller number of modules in your other subjects. In terms of how we actually teach and how you learn when you're in the law school, when you get your timetable, it might seem like you've lots of free time. Okay, so it'll say that you've got 12 to 15 hours of lectures per week, or sort of contact time, and that's kind of made up of 2 different types of class. In some modules, well, actually no modules, you'll have lectures, so they'll be quite big lectures. There can be up to 300 students in a classroom. Well, because we know that that's quite big and you're not necessarily going to be happy to ask questions. I mean, some people are quite happy to ask questions, but you might not want to ask questions in a big, huge group. We also have smaller tutorials. So some of your modules, you will have smaller groups to learn and smaller classes in addition to your large lectures. And for those tutorials, you'll be asked to do some work in preparation, asked to discuss things, discuss the law, analyze the law, take part in presentations, and so on. So it's about 12 to 15 hours of sort of lectures and tutorials per week. And sometimes it feels like that's not very much. People are like, well, what do I do for the rest of the week? And I think what's really important to realize is that with a law degree, a lot of your learning happens outside of class time. So when you're not in class, we expect you to go to the library, learn to use the library databases, learn how to find cases. We expect you to read cases, to read sort of expert analysis of the law, to analyze the law, give your opinion of the law, to write, there's a fair bit of writing involved, present, problem solve. There's a whole sort of array of things that you'll be doing outside the classroom. And the aim is that you'll become active and independent learners. So we are not aiming to have a situation where you just come in and you learn off loads of law and learn off loads of rules and you just recite it. That's not what we're trying to do at all. We're aiming to create people that can analyze the law, question the law, you know, if we think the law is kind of going a funny direction, you kind of say, well, hang on a second, that doesn't make sense. I don't think that's how, you know, the law should operate, and so on. So it's about creating active, independent learners and thinkers that will help create the law in the future. So in terms of what you'll also learn, like, I think some people think when you do law that it's just learning a bunch of rules. I think people have this idea in their heads, but it's about much more than that. It's about knowing how to analyze the law, learning how to apply the law to real situations and real people. You'll also learn group skills. There's quite a bit of working in groups with other people. We do a lot of presentation skills, writing skills, and in essence, just becoming excellent communicators, because you're taking very complex legal ideas and trying to learn, well, how do I explain this very complex legal idea? How do I explain what that is to somebody else? How do I, communicate those legal aid concepts to somebody else? In terms of helping with presentation skills and the rest, we do have various other sort of opportunities available. We have modules in moot court, so kind of moot court and advocacy modules. And you can also do moot courts as an extracurricular activity. There are supports in place to help you take part in moot court competitions, both national and international ones. There's negotiation skill competitions as well that we run. There's legal placements and internships that you can take part in. We run summer schools. And then there's also extracurricular activities that are run within the law school. So we have the Law Society that runs, you know, debates and activities and takes part in mooting competitions, negotiation competitions. We have the Student Legal Society, which has its own sort of journal that it produces and runs student-led legal clinics where they give advice to other students. And then we also have the UCD Law Review, which is a law journal that students run. So it's a student-edited law journal. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved and to fine-tune these skills and so on. I hate to talk about assessment methods when you're not even in the door yet, but it's no harm to sort of give you an idea of how we assess. We do have some exams in the law school, but we also assess by means of presentations, you know, class participation, writing essays on legal issues. Also, we have, I think, where we need to answer problem questions. This is where we give you a hypothetical situation and we ask you to advise a client. Okay, so Mary has had the following, you know, legal situation. She got in her car this morning, crashed into a tree. Who's to blame? Advise Mary. So they're kind of legal questions that we ask you to help people out with. We do some multiple choice questions as well, group projects, and even things like posters. I had a class last year making me TikTok videos and consumer law to explain what the law was. So, you know, we can use sort of a variety of assessment methods. Okay. There is also the option to study abroad. So we do have partnerships with law schools around Europe, North America, Australia, and Asia. So you can see there on the screen, there's a whole host of universities that we are connected with and that we can arrange exchanges and partnerships with. So we have lots of partner universities across the globe. With the exchange and Erasmus, it is competitive. So, okay, so you do need to get grades to get to go on Erasmus on exchange, but it is an excellent opportunity, and people that have gone, you know, pre-COVID, people that have managed to go abroad have had a fantastic time. And we're really hoping that COVID situation will ease up soon and we'll be able to get that fully back in place again, hopefully once restrictions have eased. But that is a fantastic opportunity that is available to you. Sorry, my screen's going the wrong direction. In terms of career options, there are multiple career options open to you if you study law. I mean, the one that people always sort of jump to are things like being a barrister or a solicitor, but actually it's not just limited to that. And you'd be surprised at how many people that do a law degree actually, you know, do things other than becoming a barrister or a solicitor. So they might go into business, accountancy, tax consultants, civil service, international relations is a big one. Politics, journalism, NGOs, research. I mean, I have friends, people end up in the film industry, they end up, you know, working for Amnesty International, for refugee organizations, for the UN, you know, they go to Europe, working in the European Commission. you know, I mean, looking at the graduates from my own class, we are all over the world doing lots of different types of jobs. There's definitely no one image of a law graduate. It's an excellent base degree for whatever it is you want to do in your future. That said, people do ask about the barrister and solicitor, and they say, well, if I get a law degree, can I go on to become a barrister or solicitor? So the UCD law degree is what we call a qualifying law degree. So if you pick, there's certain sort of module combinations that you need to pick, but if you pick the correct module combinations that are required, you can go on to do further study to qualify as a solicitor or a barrister. Now, what's really important is you won't be a qualified solicitor or barrister after your law degree in UCD. You do have to go on to do further training. So if you're a solicitor, currently the training is done in Blackhall Place. If you want to become a barrister, currently the training is done in King's Inns. So you go on and do your professional qualifications, and you can become a solicitor or a barrister. But the UCD law degree allows you to go to the King's Inns or to Blackhall Place to do that training. And that's what we mean by qualifying law degree. Okay, so I've gone quite quickly through all that. If you've got any, oh, sorry, my screen is going in the wrong direction. If you've got any questions, you can contact us by email, and you have the brochure there. And hopefully, I'll go back up again. I'm going to have a look at the Q&A now. Nina, is that okay?
Yes, do. I've answered some of them as I was going, but a lot of it you answered, but maybe just reinforce some of them. Somebody asks about, will there be mock trials? I think you spoke about that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mooting is really a mock trial. And we don't call it a mock trial because I think when you're in secondary school, we have these mock trials where somebody pretends to be the jury and somebody pretends to be the judge, and you know, it's all kind of like a drama. What we do is, unless we possibly do that as well, but what we mainly do are moot courts, where you're the barrister arguing the case, and that's really what we would focus on, is putting forward the legal arguments, arguing and putting forward legal points. That's what we do, moot courts. We do have that, and we do quite well actually in moot court competitions as well. What countries are you eligible to practice law if you do this course? So, like I said, it's a qualifying law degree. So if you do this law degree, you can then enter it to do the professional qualifications in Ireland and some other jurisdictions as well. So for example, you would be eligible to go and sit the professional exams and go on with professional training in the UK. Now they have changed. The UK has recently kind of changed all the requirements for how you qualify as a solicitor. So you do need to keep an eye on what other countries are doing in terms of what you need to do to qualify there. But certainly the UCD law degrees are recognised law degrees for the UK. And we'd also have students who go off to do training in New York, for example, to the New York bar exam. Okay, so you know it is recognised as a qualifying law degree that allows you to go on to do professional training in other jurisdictions. And we would have students from all over the world as well. So we'd have students who come to join us from India, from Nigeria, from the UK, and so on. So you do have that international mix as well. Someone said here, do you need to be good at public speaking? And the answer is no, not really. So I think there's this idea that to be a lawyer, you have to be big and brave and have a big deep voice and be very confident. But actually, we get some very quiet students who are excellent at law, who are very good at analysing the law and explaining the law. And there's something to be said for that approach. And yes, we will help you with communication skills. You know, you might need to do some presentations, but you know, we start you off in small groups for presentations, and we help you with those skills. And, you know, there's also societies on campus that can help you with public speaking if you do want to improve your skills. But I certainly wouldn't be put off if you're scared of public speaking or if you're quiet. Like some of the best students we've had over the years are actually extremely quiet and maybe scared of speaking in public. And they've gone on to have excellent law careers. It's not all about being loud and brash and excellent at public speaking or debating. So don't worry if you don't have much experience at debating or public speaking. It's not a problem.
There are a lot of questions, Cliona, and I'm just conscious of time. We've only got a couple of minutes. So somebody does ask about internships. So I think we'll address that if you could address that. But just to say that any other questions that we don't get to answer, please do go to the booth, the law booth. There are students and staff there and they can answer all of these questions. Just we're a little tight for time because I think Cliona covered an awful lot in her presentation.
So if you're doing the BCL degree, so the pure law degree without the other subjects, there is an optional internship with a law firm or an NGO in third year for 14 weeks. And it's an alternative to studying abroad. So you wouldn't be able to study abroad and do an internship. It's sort of one or the other. And no more than with the going abroad program or the exchange program, it's not guaranteed you get a spot. You do have to apply for a spot. The other thing I will say is that lots of students do get internships during the summertime. So, you know, they will apply to law firms and get work experience over the summer as well. So even if, you know, you decide you want to go abroad, or if you're doing a law with subject, you can still arrange for internships during the summer. And we would have law firms regularly coming on campus, talking to students and encouraging them to apply for schemes and internships and so on. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. I'm seeing a few of you asking about alternative ways to get in. So again, it might be no harm to, because that kind of gets a bit complicated. If you put that into the chat box in the law booth, people will help you. And also we have a talk at, what time is Gavin's talk at on widening participation?
He's at 1:30.
1:30. So at 1:30, there's a talk about widening participation. So you might get more information about alternative avenues into law. And we would have a high proportion of students who come in from non-traditional routes. I think it's about 30% come in through non-traditional avenues. So we're very happy to have students coming in, you know, through FETAC routes, through here and there schemes. You know, we're aiming to have a very inclusive environment in law.
And a lot of mature students, actually. We took in quite a lot of mature students this year, because I see the question about mature. Yes, we do. And in fact, on the talk at 1:00, one of our law students, Marlene, talks about why she chose it and how she's finding it. I'm actually right up to the time here now, but just to say, this is recorded. So if you want to listen back to it, it will be available later in the day or any time for the next few weeks, I believe, on the site. So please do, or please do go to the booth now and ask any specific questions you might have. Thanks for joining us, and I'll let Cliona sign off.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of your open day.